Hello, this is Opera Unbound, a podcast that breaks the barriers between opera singers and the audience. We will cover the process, challenges, stereotypes, and inspirations associated with opera.
If you like the content that we're putting out and you'd love to see more, make sure you subscribe to our channel as well as share it with all your friends. In today's episode, it's just going to be me, and it's all going to be about my favorite baritone or bass baritone arias that I just never ever get sick of hearing and or singing. So let's get into it. Alright, so let's get into this. This will be one of the playlists that we have on our YouTube channel, so it's not just me rambling on. You're going to have some clips that you can go check out. So please do that, because these scenes and arias are, God, I can't get enough of them. They're so good. So I can't start this list any other way than by doing Korngold's opera Die Tote Stadt, which was written in the middle of the 20th century. And this opera really doesn't get done very much. It's known more for its two arias, which is, one of them is the one that I'm going to talk about, and then also the soprano arias. So this show is about this guy, Paul. And along the way, he has this dream about a Pierrot, which is a clown. And this clown is singing in a pantomime show, and this clown's name is Fritz. So what Fritz is singing about is he's singing about a time when he was in love with a woman, and how they danced along the Rhine and they kissed, and it was charming, and he's just being all nostalgic about it. As I get older, as much as I hate to admit that, these kinds of pieces really speak to me. You know, when you think about your wild and crazy days of your youth and some of the things you're like, oh man, I really did that. I don't know if I would advise people to do that, but that was kind of cool. Or just, that was a really sweet moment with that particular person. Just the music is very cinematic, which is one of Korngold's things. He was a Hollywood composer, is the best way to describe his music. It's just very beautiful.
First, we will hear Gin Hun Kim singing Meine Sehnen, meine Warnen from Die Tote Stadt by Korngold. This recording comes from the 2021 BBC Cardiff Singer of the Year.
The second aria that I really love listening to is from Mark Adamo's Little Women. Yes, Little Women, like the story that a lot of people know, right? And this scene is kind of a two-for-one when you sing it, really. So that's why it's great in audition arias. But this is Dr. Baer, who of course is a poor German philosophy professor, and he's in love with Joe, and Joe wants to be a writer and all this stuff. And he's like, hey, let me give you some great writing examples. Okay, so he sings Goethe's Kennst du das Land? And in the middle of it, she's like, well, that's cool, but I don't understand what you're saying. So then he sings it in English. And this was part of his also wooing of Joe, because they do eventually end up getting married. Really beautiful. It's got floaty high notes. It's got also a big F sharp in the second verse, I guess you would say, in the English version of the poem. It's one of those pieces that it's a showstopper when it's done right. You just gotta sit and just take it all in. And it's a blast to sing too when it's done right. It's a real pain in the ass to get all the fine tuning of the floaty stuff, unless you're just one of those people that's just easy for you. It's not naturally easy for me, but man, when you get that right, oh, it's so incredibly satisfying.
From the 2016 Pittsburgh opera production of Little Women, we will hear Matthew Skolin sing Kennst du das Land?
This next one comes from Tchaikovsky's Pique Dame, or the Queen of Spades. And this, of course, is Prince Yeletsky's aria to his fiancée Lisa. You know, it's so funny to me because often baritones and basses or bass baritones, we're the bad guy in the show, right? It's very rare that we really get to pour out our soul to someone and not have it be a nefarious motive. And so I love this aria because it's not only just beautiful, it's got these long lines, and when you hear Chvorstovsky, who's arguably one of my favorite singers of all time, I mean, you want to talk about arias I can never get enough of. Well, he's a singer that I really can't get enough of. This is, I think, Dima at his best. So Yeletsky is pouring out his heart to Lisa, and he confesses his love and how he would do anything for her. However, he also is reading between the lines of some of her actions, and he has this hunch that she's holding back because for whatever reason she doesn't trust him. And so in the process of that, he's like, look, I love you, but I'm also going to give you space because there's something not right here. The energy is like, it's not how it should be.
Here's Dmitry Chvorstovsky singing Ya vas lublю from Pique Dame by Tchaikovsky.
This next one is an infamous baritone aria. It's a dream role for many a baritone, and that is, of course, Scarpia from Puccini's Tosca. Scarpia is a first-rate D-bag. If you want to talk about the top D-bags in the baritone rep, I would say you got to have at least Giovanni, Scarpia, Blitch. Just those three alone will make your blood curdle, I guess I should say, thinking about the things that they did. And Scarpia in this moment, he has a thing for Tosca. He also is very powerful, and he wants to get rid of Cavaradossi. So he's devised this plan. In this scene, there's like basically three things going on, and they're having a religious celebration. Scarpia, who's thinking about Tosca and what he's going to do, he's going to imprison Cavaradossi, then he'll have her. He's also thinking about all the things he wants to do to her. And on top of that, this is, of course, set in a church, and you have people singing the Te Deum while he's doing all of this. And the dichotomy of all these different things is very, very engaging. And I hate to report this, but, to my knowledge, there isn't you might be a baritone if, you might be a redneck joke. I kind of feel like this one, as I've prepped it for a performance that's coming up with Rachel, actually, for Opera on Tap, I realize that sometimes art reflects life, correct? And we don't realize how we actually may have more in common with the characters than we would like to admit. And what I'm saying is, there were many a moment while I was singing in Catholic churches. And you have, of course, the beautiful music that I was helping to create. But I'm not religious, so I'm just there to do my job, right? So in between, during Mass and all these heavenly messages and often glorious celebrations of the various things in the Catholic religion, I was swiping on Tinder. And so maybe I'm closer to Scarpia than I would like to admit. Anyway, this is the Te Deum.
From the 1976 movie production directed by Gianfranco de Bosio, here's Cheryl Milnes singing Va Tosca.
As many of you know from listening to the podcast, I am a huge fanboy of Wolfie, right? Herr Mozart does it for me almost every time. It's very rare that he doesn't. But here's the thing. I'm going to give you something that you've probably not heard before, because it doesn't come from an opera. He wrote a bunch of concert arias for bass and tenor and soprano. I think maybe a few for mezzo, but it's mostly soprano, tenor, and bass. And this one is called Per questa bella mano. And it's a beautiful, beautiful love aria. To sum it up, by my hand and my eyes, you can tell that I will love no one else but you. And everything in nature, right? The plants, the trees, the stones, they know how constant my fidelity is. He just wants the person that he's in love with to call them theirs forever. And it's got this really long, flowing, beautiful line. And it's also got a cello that plays along with it. And it's got a fast part too. And I just love it. It's so good.
From his 2011 Mozart album, here's Ildebrando d'Arcangelo singing Per questa bella mano.
Per questa bella mano, per questi vaghi rai, giuro mio ben che mai non amerò che te. Laure e bianche, i sassi e i miei sospir ben sanno.
This next one comes from Verdi's Don Carlo, and this is Rodrigo's death scene. So, spoiler alert, you know what his fate is. Rodrigo is basically the best friend to Don Carlo. Don Carlo is the son of King Filippo. And prior to this, Don Carlo goes to the king and he pleads for their country's freedom, right? The Flemish people, because he comes with 6 Flemish envoys. The king is basically like, look, no. Then Don Carlo is like, no, you're gonna do it. And he draws his sword on his own dad. And of course, he didn't take that very well. So he gets imprisoned. Now, like I said, they're really good friends and stuff like that. And through other stuff that happens between that moment where he gets imprisoned and the death scene where Rodrigo goes to him in prison, after he sings the first part of the scene, which is Per me giunto il di supremo, where he talks about, like, look, dude, I got it all figured out. I'm going to die for you. There's no reason for you to be sad, right? Have faith. It's going to work out because I am going to help save Flanders, or the Flemish people, right? And rule over Spain. Well, of course, they have this little moment together where they're going back and forth, and then Rodrigo gets shot, and like all operatic deaths, he's then got to sing an aria about it. So he does, and he says, I'm gonna die, but my death will not be in vain, and you need to be okay with it.
From the Vienna Staatsoper production of Don Carlo in 2015, here's Dmitri Horostovsky singing Io Morro.
And one of the things that I find really cool about this moment, and I will put this also in the playlist so you can hear the reference, is he gets shot, then there's this little transition where you hear the brass quote their duet earlier, which is one of the bromance duets in opera. We, of course, have the Pearl Fisher's duet, but this is the other big one, which is Dio che nell'alma infondere. So it's really cool when Verdi brings back that music because it creates a connection for the audience, and it also creates this like powerful moment where it's like your life is flashing before your eyes, sort of, even though it's very, very short. So just be on the lookout for that, and like I said, I'll add that to the playlist.
From the Gipfeltreffen der Klassikstars auf dem Müncher Königsplatz in 2015, we will hear Jonas Kaufmann and Thomas Hampson sing Dio che nell'alma infondere.
This last one comes from Handel's opera Rinaldo, and in this scene, this is Argante. He is the king of, to put it in modern context, because this takes place around 1100 AD during the first Christian crusade, and this is taking place in Jerusalem. Argante is essentially the leader of the Arab Muslims at the time. And this is his entrance aria, and he mentions some mythological stuff at the first, right? He mentions the hissing serpents of Alecto and the barking of Sheila, which are these mythological creatures, and that he also has this poison inside him, but it doesn't weaken him. And I just love this aria because it's a great entrance aria. It's got lots of coloratura and fioritura for the second half of it, right, where they're embellishing. It's one that I love singing. This one was actually really hard for me to pick which rendition, but I'm going to go with my man Luca Pisaroni. He just really crushes it in this Baroque stuff. And
from Glyndebourne's 2012 production of Rinaldo, here is Luca Pisaroni singing Si bellar gli angiuni da letto.
All right, y'all, that's it. This is the non-exhaustive but a good start list of baritone and bass baritone arias that I never get sick of listening to or singing. And so I hope that you check out the playlist on YouTube that I'll put up so that you can hear the various things that I talked about in the episode today. Also, let me know what baritone arias you love listening to that you never get sick of either.
Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. For more information about the podcast or for extras, check out our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/operaunbound. Ciao!